Hey there, auto friends, MrAyrit here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at the updated version of one of my favorite all-in-one desktop units of all time. We've got the JDS Labs Element IV. Now, if you look here, I've got my Element 3 sitting next to it. And if you can't spot the difference, I don't blame you, because as far as like the actual build goes, there's not a lot different here, at least in appearances, right? On the new 4, you know, there's maybe this little orange accent here, which isn't present on the previous generation model. But realistically, it's same form factor. I'm sure they reused a lot of the same parts, which is totally fine. So they did update some kind of different things about it, though, which I think are all in all positives, and I do think it could warrant an upgrade. Why I really wanted to try out the Element 4 is because the Element 3 has been kind of my go-to DAC amp for years now. And I think it sets a really great bang for your buck, where like a lot of people, I think this is all you're gonna need. And even comparing it to different equipment, like I had the Fosi K17, I mentioned this in there, like, yeah, I love the Fosi K17. That thing was a tank, but it's big. And there were some headphones that I preferred with the Element 3. And you're talking about, you know, a third of the price of that thing, right? So the Element 4, I think, probably is going to be good. And it is, spoiler. So let's talk about kind of the build here. We'll look at it, and then we'll talk about kind of the little differences with this new update. And, you know, ultimately whether I think, you know, you should go for a used Element 3 or go for the Element 4, right? Obviously, you've got, you know, the big knob here is paramount with the Elements, and it's implemented really well here. Better than the Element 3. The Element 3s, like this is a very, like you can see I can just spin this thing and like it's just going. This one does not do that. So it's a much more solid feeling volume knob, which I think interacting with it just feels nicer, which, you know, when you've got a big volume knob, you want it to be real nice to interact with, and this one is, right? It's an infinite scroll knob, but there's good reason for that, because you can really dial in when you get into the settings of this thing. You could really dial it in to kind of suit your preferences, like how fast does the volume scroll? When does it switch gain stages? Things like that. So it's a well implemented knob, and we'll talk more about some of that customization stuff here in a moment. You can see I've got it plugged in so we can look at the screen and some of the features here, and let's just go ahead and look at the back. The big update from the previous one is that this has USB-C, whereas this one had USB, what I think that's called USB-A, like the printer style cable. So a little bit of an update there. But other than that, it's pretty much the same as far as the layout goes. Now, you can see on this one, there's a headphone RCA button and then a power button. This one has the power button and a mode button. So it is a little bit different in that regard. The power supplies are largely the same, but you can see that this one says 17 volt AC, this one says 16 volt AC, so there must be a small change there with the power supplies. But it's clean, it's simple, right? You got RCA out to run speakers, or I usually run it into like a tube amp or something like that, just whatever else I'm kind of testing. And then you do have optical in if you want that option as well. Around the front, you just got the same good old 1/4 inch. Now I mean, it's okay, it's fine. You know, I don't mind having single-ended. That doesn't bother me one bit. I do wish that they would put a 4.4 Penticon on this. They did that on their Atom, their latest Atom, right? Like, so you can, it's still a single-ended amp, but you have the option to run a 4.4 connector, which I just appreciate, because that's, in my mind, kind of becoming the new standard as far as connectors go. But, you know, it's a simple box, and I think, you know, that works well for it, because, you know, it's just easy to put on your desk and use. You know, you have access, obviously, to the volume knob. You can push the button on the back to switch modes, and we'll start talking about that here. So what I think the biggest improvement is in the Element 4 over the Element 3 is basically kind of like the UI and just all the customization options. So I'm gonna show you how this works here real quick. Hopefully the camera, sees this well enough. But basically, if I push the volume knob, you can see there's what my volume looks like, okay? If I push it again, it'll change. Like I can set, so I have mine set to change to the RCA if I push this in. Now, if we push and hold this in, okay, now it brings up the menu, and this is really where you can fine tune like a lot of this stuff, okay? So you can really start to fine tune this. I'm just gonna come up here so you can see a little bit better. And really, so I'm just gonna click UI settings here, and you got screen timeout, screen contrast, LED mode, so like how much does the LED stay on and what does it do? Knob speed, volume steps, gain, auto gain speed, because this doesn't have like gain switches. It's just as you scroll through the volume, it'll up the gain levels depending on your needs, which I think is a brilliant implementation. Again, it's just dead simple. I don't have to think about it. I just turn the volume wheel until my headphones are at the right volume, which is really how it should be, isn't it? I mean, it's basically an idiot-proof device, which I love. The big one you're gonna wanna see, I think, is the DSP configure, because this is like the meat of this, right? And you can see I've got RCA line DSP and I've got headphone DSP. And so what's great about this is I can click in this and then look at all these different options. Filter one type, low shelf, peaking, high shelf. So you can set these different things. And then you go filter one gain, and you can set the gain in a very fine level. You can see it's going up by tenths, by 0.1 each time. So you can really fine tune that to your preferences. I'll go ahead and cancel that. Filter one frequency, and check this out, right? I can change the frequency and it's going up by 1 hertz, right? So I can change, like I can dial this in so specifically if I want to. And I just think that that's amazing that they give you such fine control over this. Now, for a device that is seemingly very simple to use, this has quite a bit of customization available to it. And filter one Q, and again, you can change the Q value of it. And if all this is over your head, just know that like you don't have to use any of this, okay? But you can see they've got up to 12 different filter settings that you can mess with on here. All that is to say, like, using the device is very simple, but if you really want to get in there and you are a big EQ person and you have some very specific EQ needs that you don't want to use software for, you'd rather do it in device, this has it. And it's such a fine level of precision. I just think it's really cool that they implemented it this way. It's not something that like I'm gonna use. Like I said, I like simple. Like I'm just using it. But I love that if I had a specific headphone or a specific set of speakers or whatever that I was trying to run with this, and there was like a glaring issue. Like I loved them, but there was like a little issue. Like I'm thinking of something like maybe, like the 800, the HD800S or something like that. Like you could go in and very specifically target a certain frequency and get it set just the way you want it. And I think that level of control is only a bonus to have, right? Like not very many devices do it. I know you can do that in software, but not very many devices allow you to do that at such a precise level. So kudos to JDS Labs for implementing something that's so simple, yet you can dive in and really tweak it to your heart's content. I love that, okay? But yeah, let's go ahead and start talking about stock sound. That's probably the biggest change though, right? Is just those EQ settings and just kind of the functionality control of the device. That's probably it. And again, you've got that mode button on the back, which again, you can dial in the menu there to do what you want it to do, which again is awesome. Sound-wise, it's just clean. It's a clean DAC amp, right? It's very clean. it's really without a lot of character, I would say. And so if you're the type of person that you just want to be able to trust that you're getting just a very clean signal from your amp and DAC, I think this is the guy. Like, I would say going back and forth between the Element 3 and the Element 4, I would say that it is a slightly more refined sound. I love the sound of the Element 3, but just when you compare them back and forth, the Element 4 just, it's a little bit tighter in everything and a little bit better controlled. And that's probably just the theme of the review here, is just the Element 4 is like, it's basically the Element 3, except it's just a little more controllable and controlled in how you run the machine and how it presents sound. So again, I think it probably is a step up in audio quality over the 3. I mean, a minor step up, I would say, but it is a step up. And I think, you know, the Element 3 I found to be just like perhaps like a slightly smidge livelier and like a little bit looser in its sound than the Element 4, which, to be honest, sometimes I liked with headphones. But with the control that the Element 4 has, you know, I think if you wanted to make it a little bit livelier, right, you could get into those DSP settings and you could probably target the areas that you want to boost a little bit, and I think you could get kind of the same effect. So JDS Labs Element 4, I think is, again, it's a benchmark as far as like quality and value, and it's at a level where I think there's very few people that are going to need more, and very few headphones that are going to need more. A couple of the higher end headphones that I have are the Hifi HE1000 SE, sounds phenomenal on this. And then I have the Headphone 2 GT, which is, you know, sitting back there. And they both sound great on this. And that's one where I thought, you know, I didn't think that the Headphone 2 GT played super well with the Element 3, but listening on the Element 4, I've got no issues with it whatsoever. So both those are brilliant headphones, and they both sound brilliant on the Element 4. So I think JDS Labs really knocked it out of the park with this. It's subtle improvements over the 3. It's not like what I would consider a huge jump, but I think if you don't already have an Element 3, I would probably just pick up the Element 4, and I think you can rest assured that you're getting a lot for your money, and you probably will never need anything else, is what I would say. And it's just so simple. Again, it's just such a simple device to use and a joy to interact with, and it just works. And it doesn't take up a lot of desk space. It doesn't draw a lot of attention to itself. You know, it would fit right at home on any desk, and I think you'd be great. Heck, I feel like you could even make a 3D print something, and you could even mount it on like the underside of your desk, as long as you just want to use the volume knob, and I think that would work. Like, that's as simple as it is. Like, you don't even have to look at the thing, you know what I mean, unless you want to really dive into all that stuff. So yeah, thanks to JDS Labs for sending this out. I think this is gonna, replace my 3, and this is gonna be my new go-to DAC amp probably for a long time, and it's what I'm gonna compare things against. So phenomenal product, totally recommend it. You know, is there room for the Element 3 out there? Yeah, I think on the used market, you know, you find one for a couple $100. I still think that's an amazing device too, and a great value. So I really like both of them, and it's really just, you know, do you want the latest, greatest? If so, Element 4, no problems. I do think it's better. But, you know, if you got a couple $100 and you're just looking on the used market and you come across an Element 3, bada bing, bada boom. That works too. So yeah, JDS Labs, I just think they're great. You know, it's a great company. I love that they're, you know, not very far from where I live. You know, it's a Midwest, local, USA company that makes fantastic audio products. So kudos to you, JDS Labs. Well done again. And thanks to you guys for watching. I always appreciate you hanging in here. Hope you're doing well. You know, stick around. I've got a couple other interesting new headphones and devices coming up that I will be reviewing in the near future. So hope to see you in those. Cheers.